Welcome to TM Spiritual Knowledge channel. In this episode, we will present a philosophical analysis of the question, who is God according to the philosopher Baruch Spinoza? Please stay with us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive future episodes. To understand how different Spinoza's concept of God was from the traditional view at the time, and to what extent the religious authorities of his era considered his ideas dangerous, even frightening, one can look at the decree issued by the leaders of the Amsterdam Synagogue in 1656. This decree expelled Spinoza from the Jewish community for life. Here is the text of the decree. By the law of the synagogue, we expel and curse the man called Baruch Spinoza, with the agreement of the entire sacred community, and in the presence of our holy scriptures. May he be cursed by day and cursed by night, cursed in his sleep and cursed in his wake. May the Lord never forgive him. May the wrath and all fury of the Lord fall upon this man. May all the misfortunes written in our holy books be upon him. May his name be erased from this world forever, and may God separate us from him. We declare to everyone that no one should have any contact with Spinoza, neither in writing nor verbally. No service should be offered to him. No one should approach him within 4 cubits. No one should live under the same roof with him, and no one should read any of his writings. As you can see, this condemnation was like a sentence of social death for the philosopher Spinoza. It didn't just affect him socially. Spinoza was also the target of an assassination attempt by a fanatic. Interestingly, this decree of excommunication against Spinoza was never repealed and remains in effect to this day. This text reveals the intense hatred that Spinoza's philosophy provoked in religious communities of his time. More importantly, if we examine the wording of this decree, we see that its authors ask God to unleash his wrath upon Spinoza and afflict him with every misfortune. In other words, they assume that God listens to them above others, that they can convince him, and that they have the power to direct his punishment towards someone. For them, God is capable of experiencing feelings like anger. This assumption is not unusual, as the entirety of Holy Scriptures is a rich record of God's emotions. We see God happy at times, content, sad, jealous, angry, vengeful, in need of love, respect, and obedience, desiring humans to seek his favor. All these emotions and needs are, in fact, projections of human emotions, suggesting that, rather than man being created in the image of God, it is God who was conceived in the image of man. Simply reading the sacred texts reveals numerous passages describing God's being or actions in a way that portrays him almost as an individual with human traits. For example, these texts state that God possesses eyes, ears, hands, and a face, and acts much like a king. He sits on a throne, demands obedience and worship, enacts laws and decrees, and decides the fate of his subjects according to his will, admitting some into paradise and others into hell. However, there is a difference. God in these texts is not a king like any other. He doesn't live within this world, but outside it, separate from it. As the great creator, it is believed that he could not create the world and at the same time be a part of it. According to monotheistic religions, therefore, God is an entity that existed before creation, brought this world into being, is different from it, and stands outside it, observing it while interacting with it continually, yet feeling the same emotions humans feel. When trying to understand the nature of God, we often ask ourselves, who is God? But to grasp Spinoza's concept of God, he suggests we change the question. Instead of asking who is God, we should ask what is the essence of God. For the first thing Spinoza concluded is that God is not a person but an essence. This expression may seem strange, but we will understand why Spinoza describes God as essence. Essence is the fundamental substance that forms things. For example, wood is the essence from which furniture, houses, and musical instruments are made. With another essence, like water, one can fill a pool, make ice, or produce steam. According to Spinoza, all things that make up the world and the universe are composed of only one essence. Everything that exists in reality is just a part or modification of this single essence. Spinoza adds that this one essence, infinite and eternal, is the only cause of existence itself. Thus, this divine essence, which contains everything in the universe, is not only capable of creating itself, but also continuously produces itself without interruption from eternity to eternity. According to Spinoza's reasoning, if all things we see exist, they must belong to something greater than themselves and be contained within the vessel that holds them. For example, the heart, kidneys, lymph glands, and other organs are parts of the entity that constitutes a human and cannot exist outside of it. So, in summary, if all things we perceive exist, they must be part of an infinite essence that surrounds them all, which is the divine essence. At this point, we might wonder why Spinoza insists that there is only one divine essence. Why couldn't there be multiple divine essences? The logical answer is that there cannot be multiple infinite essences, because if there were more than one infinite essence, each would limit the other, and thus none would be infinite or complete. For this reason, Spinoza states, the only infinite and immutable essence is God. Based on all of the above, Spinoza's philosophy holds that the divine self is not separate from the world, as religious teachings suggest. God is not outside the world. On the contrary, God is the world itself. He exists in everything that constitutes this world, and everything in the world is a part of God. Therefore, the sum of all things that make up the world and the universe is God Himself. Since there are an infinite number of things in the world, constantly multiplying, this is proof that God is infinite. From Spinoza's perspective then, we can conclude that all of us, including you, me, the screen on which you're viewing these words, the room you're sitting in, the air you breathe, the ground you walk on, and the stars you see in the night sky, are all parts of the one divine essence. This is what Spinoza expresses with his famous phrase, Deus sive natura, meaning God is nature. But here a question might arise. If all things are simply one essence, why did Spinoza use the term God? And if God is not an essence separate from nature, which continuously produces itself, why did he insist on keeping this name? It seems strange because calling nature God could create confusion, especially since this term has a different definition in religions. In fact, by using this name, Spinoza brought trouble upon himself and complicated the understanding of his philosophy. As it could seem, he was pushing us to abandon a concept of God that humanity had known for thousands of years. However, Spinoza was adamant about using the term God, because he believed this essence possesses the same traditional attributes often ascribed to God. The divine essence produces itself without needing any external cause. It contains and embodies all the laws of nature. This essence is the only infinite and eternal source of all reality, and continues to create itself forever through creation. Therefore, Spinoza considered it essential to retain the name God. Yet, despite the resemblance of the divine essence to the traditional qualities of God, it differs in three key aspects, according to Spinoza. First, it does not have human characteristics. It is neither a mythical being nor human-shaped, and it does not possess a human body. Second, God does not experience human emotions, such as anger, jealousy, or resentment. Third, it does not exist outside the world, but is the world itself. In other words, it is not transcendent, but immanent, existing within creation and within all things. according to the concept of determinism in philosophy. Immanence means that a thing has its principle within itself, unlike transcendence, which refers to the existence of an external or supernatural cause. When we say that everything in the universe is part of the divine essence, we are not only referring to material things like trees, stones, humans, or galaxies, but also to non-material things such as ideas, emotions, memories, and mathematical laws, among others. According to Spinoza, essence possesses an infinite number of attributes. An attribute is a particular way in which essence expresses or manifests itself. Among the infinite attributes that form essence and are perceivable by humans are physical extension and thought. Extension is space, the material world we see around us, encompassing all that is physical and tangible, like physical objects and bodies. Thought, on the other hand, includes ideas, emotions, arts, and everything related to mind and intellect. Thus, the attributes of physical extension and thought are two inseparable aspects, like two sides of the same coin. For example, when you play a game of chess, the pieces, such as the queen, king, knight, and rook, are tangible objects, and each time you move a piece on the board, you are moving it within a physical extension. At the same time, the game exists within your mind. For instance, you understand mentally that the knight is not merely a horse-shaped piece. Rather, in your mind, it represents a set of game rules. Each time you make a move, you have infinite possibilities, and the same goes for your opponent. The game thus takes place on two simultaneous levels. First, on the level of physical extension, on the tangible chessboard. Second, on the level of thought, in the form of ideas and strategies in your mind and your opponent's mind. Thus, the attribute of thought is not something individual. It is shared among all minds, just as physical reality is shared by everyone. This is why the attributes of extension and thought are not merely human traits. They are also attributes of the divine essence, or divine attributes, two facets of one reality. Imagine we are facing a chess game, and the question that would help us understand Spinoza's concept of God is, who would win this game? The answer is, the winner would be the one capable of seeing all possible scenarios of the game. But this is an enormous number, to the extent that the possible number of games exceeds the number of atoms in the visible universe. We reach the essential point here. There is no single mind in this world, capable of knowing and understanding all possible games, except for the divine mind, this infinite, all-encompassing mind, which is part of the divine essence, and the source from which all minds originate, including yours and your opponent's. Therefore, it can be said that your body and mind are parts of the divine essence, and you possess a small part of this essence. To conclude, we might ask, what is the difference between you and God? The answer is simple. You may desire to play chess, but God does not. And why is that? Because no one would want to play a game when they already know all its possible moves and outcomes. This example illustrates why God cannot feel emotions or take a position. God is not part of the game like humans are. Rather, God oversees it. Unlike what religions and sacred texts say, God has no need to engage in a game he fully understands because all matches already exist within him. God, or nature, needs nothing but to exist. As for you, your existence gives you the chance to say checkmate at the end of every chess game. But remember, when you say checkmate, it is not just you speaking, but rather a part of God expressing himself through you. This is the teaching of the philosopher Spinoza. If you enjoyed this episode, don't hesitate to give it a like. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.